The grand finale of You, one of Netflix's most renowned series, has finally arrived. This epic conclusion showed us the darkest side of Joe Goldberg and wrapped up the stories of all the characters. But what does the final message mean? What will happen to Joe? These are questions we're going to answer. Welcome to Charlietales. Today we'll analyze Season 5 and explain the meaning of the ending. Ready? Let's begin. Season 5 presents Joe married to Kate. They've been married for 3 years, and everything seems fine. They even got Henry back, the son Joe left behind in previous seasons. However, Kate suffers from problems in her business circle, and this causes Joe to start killing again. As in every season, he's willing to eliminate anyone to protect the woman he loves. But just like in every season, Joe repeats patterns. Once again, a new woman appears, who Joe falls in love with, and this causes him to forget his previous partner. This has happened constantly throughout the series. This time the chosen one is Bronte, a mysterious girl who awakens Joe's old habits, meaning killing and lying. But here comes a twist. We are told that Bronte is a fraud. Her real name is Louise, and she came to the city looking for Joe. Louise was a good friend of Beck many years ago, but when Beck died, she began to suspect Joe. Louise came to the city to investigate him, but accidentally fell in love with him. The season ends with Bronte discovering Joe's truth and confronting him in a fierce battle. Joe ends up arrested for the murders of Beck and Love, among other crimes. It's made clear that he will never get out of prison, so he will spend the rest of his life alone. This is the summary of the story. With this context, let's move on to the analysis. What will happen to Joe? The series ends by giving him the worst punishment he could suffer, spending the rest of his life alone, with no one to love him. From the beginning of the series, Joe was portrayed as a man terrified of loneliness. Let's remember that as a child, he was abandoned by his mother, the first woman he ever loved. That's why in every season, we saw him searching for love in other women. He was always looking for someone to love him. But he never succeeded because he himself was broken. Joe was incapable of loving in a healthy way, and that's why he never found the connection he sought. With this context, his ending is quite tragic. Joe's loneliness in prison is absolute. He no longer has any connection to anyone valuable on the outside. His son Henry hates him, so he will never visit. And none of the women he loved will ever come back for him. Joe is alone forever. The scene is very clear. But the series doesn't end there. In prison, Joe receives letters from fans who admire him, despite his crimes. Joe is surprised by this, and utters an important phrase. Maybe the problem isn't me, maybe it's you. This phrase is what closes the series, and has a deep meaning. The series is sending a message to us, the audience. It's saying that we are the same as those people who send Joe letters. These people know perfectly well that Joe is a convicted criminal, yet they admire him. This also happened in real life. Netflix presented Joe as a dangerous monster throughout the seasons. We all clearly saw the horrible crimes he committed. But even so, many fans ended up idealizing him as someone good, a victim. By season 5, many fans were even asking for a happy ending for him. That's why the phrase is so interesting. Joe says that maybe the problem isn't him, but us. Despite everything, it's society that creates and admires monsters like Joe Goldberg. In real life, many people admire actual criminals. For example, when the Dahmer series came out, many empathized with him and even justified his terrible crimes. The same happened with the Ted Bundy series. Society tends to romanticize monsters like Joe all the time. Let's move on to another point. I want to talk about Bronte. This character is quite interesting. She came into the season with the goal of investigating Joe, but ended up falling in love with him. This happened for several reasons. First, because she always had a particular liking for anti-heroes, meaning characters who are capable of doing bad things for good reasons. From her perspective, Joe was an anti-hero, someone who is capable of killing to protect her. According to the show's writers, Bronte also functions as an avatar for us, the viewers. She personifies the feeling that many fans have experienced while watching Joe's adventures. Just like Bronte, many of us have justified or even defended Joe, even though we know he is bad. At a certain point, Joe confesses several crimes to Bronte, but instead of walking away, she ends up justifying these murders. It's the same thing that all the fans of the show have done at some point. In some season, we've all justified Joe at least once. However, everything changes when she has a conversation with Marianne. This woman is a former lover of Joe who met the worst version of him. With her vast experience, she is able to wake Bronte up from the trance. She tells Bronte the truth about Joe and also explains this truth to us. The writers placed Bronte so that we could wake up with her. We have all been enchanted by Joe's charisma. He is a handsome white man, and he has the script on his side. That's why it's normal to fall in love with him. But everything changes in the end. The final battle between Bronte and Joe serves to break the spell. This is where we see the darkest Joe of the entire series. The scene even looks like something out of a horror movie. At this point, Bronte faced the purest version of Joe, a violent, insecure, and cowardly man. During the battle, it is even revealed to us that Joe was the one who injured Bronte's ankle days ago. And he did this when he was supposedly in love with her. This detail makes it clear that the guy is insane. He was always bad, and he never stopped being bad. When Bronte defeats Joe, we are shown his most cowardly side. He is deeply afraid of loneliness, so he asks the woman to shoot him. Joe prefers to die rather than be alone and locked up. The final episode made sure to break Joe's spell. Here we saw him in the most vulnerable and pathetic way possible. When he's in prison, they've cut his hair, and his appearance is more unpleasant. He no longer looks like the sophisticated and deep guy from previous seasons. Now he really looks like a criminal. Let's move on to another important character. I want to talk about Henry. Joe's son finally stayed with Kate, who has been his mother for the past 3 years. Henry initially showed signs of having behavioral problems. At school, he hit his cousin because the girl spoke badly about his mother, and then he threw a knife at his aunt. Henry was becoming a smaller version of Joe, someone capable of hurting others to defend his family. This was a dangerous sign that Kate, and even Joe himself, detected in time. Henry's future will probably be good, since Joe got him therapy to deal with his problems. In addition, he has resources from Kate's family, and it's clear that she loves him very much. But the most important thing is that Henry cut ties with Joe, so he won't have to grow up with his father's darkness surrounding him. The show gave us a powerful scene in which Henry has a phone call with his father. Here the little boy realizes that Joe is a monster and says goodbye to him. This call was heartbreaking for Joe, but maybe it was the best thing for Henry. He admired his father a lot, but he didn't know he was a monster. Upon discovering this, Henry was able to cut his relationship with him and won't have to grow up with his father's traumas. Joe didn't understand it, but with this call, his son was saved. The cycle of violence was cut, and now Henry will be able to live a relatively normal life. Joe was not fit to raise him. Even though he loved him very much, he was sick. He was always sick, and that's why his fate was to end up locked up. It was the best thing for Henry and for everyone. That's all for today. If you liked the video, you'd really help me out by leaving a like. That would be legendary. Also, remember to subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for listening. My name is Charlie, and I'll see you in the future.